oversight of AI facial recognition systems. The Sun, what a World Cup. Stitch up. Express, she is back to prison for petty theft more than 20 years later. At least someone is going to prison for petty theft in this country. The Mail, Labor's plan to double parking fine. The Mirror, reform in new race row. And, of course, we will now be starting with that conversation, which is this extraordinary analysis which has come from the TELF this evening, which says that for 600,000 households, it is effectively, well, more efficient to stay on welfare than it is to take a minimum wage salary. Paul, I'll start with you. The whole thing about a welfare program is not that you should be able to live a cushy, comfortable lifestyle. It's basically meant to stop you from staying on. It's meant to keep you off the streets. It's meant to keep you fed, and that should be about it. What this does surely is it just means that less people are motivated to work.
Well, absolutely. Obviously, let's not forget that many moons ago it was a safety net place to keep. Through dire times for them. These aren't the people we're talking about, really, although some people can fall into this.
I'm just going to interrupt you there because we may be having slight sound issues with you, but no doubt sterling analysis if that could be heard. Lisa, I'll go to you because the problem with this is that we don't have infinite resources. We are going broke as a country. The Times, if we can get that up, is letting that on the military having no new money for weapons until 2030. Keir Starmer doesn't think that it is a zero-sum game here, but I very much think it is. If you're putting more money into welfare, you have less money on things that really matter, like the defence of the country.
I think what we've also got to do here as well is start to think about what's happening with the welfare and the numbers, how many people are actually claiming welfare. I personally think, and actually there's evidence that will back this up, that at least 2 million people on welfare are actually unemployed, and they should be added to the unemployment figures. The million young people who are claiming welfare, they should really be added to the unemployment figures. The reason the government won't do that is because obviously it terrifies people, because when unemployment rises, it really frightens people. And in the 1980s, this is exactly what Mrs. Thatcher did. She changed, she removed people from the unemployment benefit, to put them on disability in order to sort of massage the unemployment.
I just want to bring Peter in here because Peter, surely, with very odd exceptions, if you are on welfare, not only should you be looking for work, you should be looking incredibly hard for work every single day.
And there are millions of young people at the moment doing exactly that who have left university with degrees which are not fundamentally helping them. But that's a bit of another story. Look, work is so good for the soul, mind, body and soul. Anybody who would rather flop about on their sofa watching daytime television really needs their head examined. The work is so uplifting. I know sometimes it can be and it can be a challenge to get up, but at the end of the day, it is good for the soul. To put food on the table, to pay for your family is a very rewarding thing to do. It's what people should do. And quite frankly, I want those who are genuine benefit claimants, the disabled, I would like them to have a more generous slice of the pie, and that could be achieved if we got those people who are bone idle, who have self-injury, harmed themselves through too much alcohol, too many drugs, all that kind of stuff. Sort out those who are undeserving and look after those who are truly deserving.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important distinction, because I think that distinction between the people who are deserving, for example, senior citizens who have worked throughout their life and now do deserve to be supported by the state in their retirement years, and people, for example, who are on PIP payments, who may have had, the odd bad day and therefore suddenly say that they've got anxiety or depression. Looming cost particularly. just because we've now medicalised effectively having hurt feelings, as opposed to saying, you know what, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and go out and get a job.
Because that requires discipline, you see, and discipline's become a dirty word for so many millions of people in this country, where of course it isn't. It's a fundamental driver. Self-discipline is a very, very important aspect. But just while we're talking about elderly people, can I just point out the utter lunacy of this stupid headline in the Eye paper today that says state pension triple lock under threat if UK goes to war with Putin. They may as well have written importation of boomerangs under threat if we go to war with Australia, because that's how likely it is to happen.
Don't put me in an awkward position. Be considered an enemy of the state. I'll be deported.
Just come back to the sort of medicalise it. So you said what we've also done is medicalise social problems as well.
Yeah.
Last week I was listening to one of the ministers. It was actually West Streeting, and he was talking about anxiety and depression. But what he was, for all the reasons it was given about anxiety and depression, it was social issues. It was things like homelessness or having no money or being poor. Well, that is now being medicalised. If we didn't medicalise social issues and actually sorted out those social issues, then I think, but unfortunately, we've got an economy that's crashing, and I don't think anybody's been honest about that.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, and that politicians now often find it very difficult to live with the public. So at the moment, this country's debt levels are unsustainable and they're only getting higher. Any small attempts to reduce spending, like the welfare reforms that were ignominiously dropped last year after a backbench rebellion, are ditched. How do we actually have an honest conversation to say, you know what, we are spending beyond our means and there will be an economic judgment day unless we actually cut back, particularly on welfare?
Well, take any major subject impacting the UK negatively today, and the truth is kryptonite to the politicians in charge. Every single subject, whether it's trying to keep people straight, we can't talk about Islamism, we can't talk about anti-Semitism in an open way without people criticising. When it comes to benefits, and I was saying earlier when I couldn't be heard, that many people need benefits. I come from a family that use benefits. I consider myself very fortunate. I've never had benefits myself. But when you've got 600,000 people, which, by the way, of 34 million working people, is nearly 2% of all working people, can earn more on benefits than they can going to work. Everything that Peter said and everything that Lisa said is absolutely right. It's great for mind, body and soul, and you can overcome a lot of the problems that Lisa's talking about by getting people back to work. Now, if you keep putting in things like minimum wages at £12.50 under Labour or £15 under Greens, and it means that you cannot employ people because small businesses like I own can't just dish out £15 an hour that easily, you're going to go for someone who's experienced, and you're not going to necessarily take a gamble. There's no way into work for these people, so I don't blame some of them for sitting there, but we end up with this epidemic where it looks like laziness, because 90% of it is, but there is issues in there that aren't being solved.
There are economic issues, and I think let's not just forget about those million young people who are claiming benefits, but they are probably unemployed. Yeah. They're not actually just sitting there. They probably want to work. I know young people who have applied for 200 jobs. It's very difficult out there. We shouldn't be medicalising unemployment and a bad economy.
Paul mentioned the lunacy of the Greens, and I want to give you a folly outside of stuff here. They're talking about raising the minimum wage to £15, something which I find just extraordinary about the Greens, but also Labor, most of the left-wing parties. But they just don't think about trade-offs when it comes to policies. They don't understand that if you raise the minimum wage, less businesses will employ people. They don't understand, like Labor, for example, that if you increase VAT on private schools, kids go from private schools into the public sector, putting strain on the state. They don't think about these things. They don't obviously think about their children in that regard.
They are the heart of thinking amongst the political classes. But when I saw the front page of The Guardian today, and I started reading it, and it said, alarm over toothless, I thought it was another Zach Polanski song. Because let's face it, he has got the teeth of a crackhead. Right, so I wonder,
badly kept graveyard.
I wonder if he's had a relationship with illegal drugs in the past. I've no way of knowing, but be interesting to ask him about that. But there is another lunatic Green Party column on the front page of the Sun today, because it says Polanski apparently will not decry those who called for to globalise the Intifada. Well, there you go, Polanski. You're an absolute joke figure.
Do you know what Polanski has done though over the last week? So he really has told the country what the real problem, what problems are here, because people have seen him now. They've heard him. They've seen what's been happening regarding Jewish communities, and what they're doing now is they're making a judgment on that and saying this is not right. And I think now the whole country is sort of watching this. So he's like Polanski, you know, on one hand, he's sort of, you know, he's increased his popularity amongst a certain group, but I think the larger majority of people now are seeing this for what it is.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, you don't need to be popular with everyone now to win a general election or to come second. You just need to have a hardcore support of, 25 to 30% of the population. And look, for better or worse, he is tapping into something at the moment. I just want to go quickly on to round out our conversation on welfare to what Keir Starmer had to say on welfare reform in the Commons this week.
Welfare system she complains of, so the one they put in place, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, we are reforming it to improve it. And what did they do when we put that forward? They voted to keep the same broken welfare system. This is the Labour government that increased defence spending, the highest sustained spend since the Cold War. What did they do, Mr. Speaker, when they came in? Our defence spending was 2.5%, and when they left power, it was 2.3%.
Paul, I'll give you the right of reply to Sir Keir Starmer.
I'd love to be able to reply, Will, but I hate to do this to you on live TV. But I never heard a word of what Keir Starmer said.
Well, you're a very lucky man. Right reply to you, Peter.
Yeah, well, as the Grey Flash has the Odyssey to talk about welfare reform, he couldn't get reform through his own lunatic left backbenchers that stopped him. So it's a bit ironic, isn't it?
It is ironic. At the same time, Lisa, the fact of the matter is, whilst I suspect it will be easier for reform to get future government backbench on side when it comes to cutting spending in this area, it will still be difficult because it involves ultimately taking money away from people.
Yeah.
How should they go about doing it? And where should they focus?
I think
Any prospective future government, whoever that might be.
Yeah, whoever that may be. I think what they need to do is really look at that first thing, which is making work pay. And having a look at the economy and why working isn't paying. And then looking at these sort of hotspots within the welfare system. For example, young people. What are we going to do about young people? How do we get them into work?
Yeah.
And then there's the long time. The people who've just been left to rot. Because there are groups of people who have been left to rot. What do we do? Do we leave them to rot? Or are we going to do something about that?
Types of groups you're referring to.
If you think back to sort of COVID, those sort of lockdown days, it was really, I'm not saying easy, but no one was watching. So people have been claiming benefits probably for 5 or 6 years now and have not been encouraged to get into work.
Surely that's on them at the end of the day, though, ultimately to say, you know what, if I'm on the couch and my life isn't progressing where it should be going, that's on me.
Well, yeah, but there's parts of the country, for example, where I live in Nottinghamshire, where jobs are very scarce, actually. And so it's not as easy for everybody throughout the country. Things are different in different parts of the country.
Lisa, we don't have to look at anything to discover what the answers are. We know what is crippling the economy. We know what's crippling businesses. It's high energy costs and it's sky-high taxes. Address those two matters, you'll get the economy going again.
Well, that's what we need to do. We need to get the economy going.
Well, there's two ways that you can really improve your economic fortunes. One is to go out and get a job, and the second, which is maybe slightly less likely but very exciting, and that's the Great British Giveaway, and it's your chance to have a spectacular summer with £76,543 in cold, hard and tax-free cash. Here's what you need to win.
There's a totally tax-free £76,543 and 21 pence in cash to be won. Cash to spend on anything you like. That's like having over £6,000 extra to spend each month for a whole year. You can spend it on a bucket list holiday, treats for all of the family, or just save it for a rainy day. Just make sure you don't miss your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence. Fresh chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in tax-free cash. Text cash to 63225. One entry £50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck, everyone. Well, coming up after the break, the Times is leading on yet another example of vindictiveness from the European Union. Britain has been told to pay £1 billion a year to the EU after a potential reset. This is Alex Armstrong Tonight, late edition with me, Will Kingston.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
They are under no illusion.
Right.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't go to the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. I'm going to do now. They are throwing things up the arses. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Chris News tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
It's a surprise.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show. It's not a bad brand. Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable. What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
But how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me. Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
Part of the GB Newsroom to every corner of Britain with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK. GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you. Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. At GB News, we'd love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
You know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
The stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless, and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB loyalty points are here. They're our way of saying thank you for spending time with GB News. Through commenting on your say, voting in You Decide polls, and shaping the debate, you can earn GB loyalty points, unlock rewards, reach milestones, and climb leaderboards. Don't just watch our programs, come and be part of it. Get started by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/loyalty points.
Welcome back to Alex Armstrong Tonight. Late edition with me, Will Kingston. Don't forget to get a comment in to gbnews.com. You'll say later in the hour after a story about a celebrity boycott at the Met Gala as a result of its affiliation with Jeff Bezos. I'm going to be asking the panel who is Britain's most woke celebrity. We'll be awarding that dubious honour at the end of the show. Get your nominations in on gbnews.com/your say. And on your say, on our previous topic, Alison has written in saying, I agree with what the panel is saying, but there are massive job losses at the moment due to Rachel Reeves's decisions. Employers are finding it hard due to the increased national insurance costs and the increasing minimum wage, and a lot of people have lost their jobs through no fault of their own and would be prepared to work. Alison, I think that is a very good point, and sometimes we can be guilty of basically just saying everyone who's struggling out there at the moment is just sitting on the couch being lazy. Certainly a lot of people like that, but there are a lot of people who are sincerely trying to find work in an incredibly difficult economy, which is why the decisions of this Labor government, which makes it harder for employers to create new jobs, are so incredibly damaging. Let's go to the Times now, where they are reporting that Britain will be paid £1 billion a year to the EU after a proposed reset. Stum has been hit by this demand from Brussels, and it is now just another example in a long line of demands from the European Union that, to me, just feel like spite after the Brexit decision. Peter, what do you make of this?
Starmer's not being hit by this demand. Starmer will be embracing this demand as he drags us ever closer to reunification with the European Union. And if he doesn't get it done in this Parliament, that'll be the big carrot that he dangles in front of the left at the next general election and say, stay with me, we'll get you back in Europe.
Yeah, this is an interesting question. Do you think as Labor gets more and more desperate and their electoral chances get more and more remote, they could pull out the break glass in case of emergency option of a Brexit or of a return to the European Union?
100%. My biggest fear is that because they are so much on the rocks now, and they will have had a plan for this particular Parliament, this 4 or 5 years, that they will, and particularly, well, but that's my point, because Keir Starmer, he might be gone in a couple of weeks' time, he might be gone in a couple of years' time. Nobody really can actually say. So I think that he will have a plan for much of what he wants or what he's being told to deliver as soon as possible. And what we're going to get as a result is this type of legislation from the EU. A lot of the time you have discussions about one parliament to the next, one government to the next. You say you can't tie one government to a previous government's policies. You absolutely can. If you sign up to something in the EU, it can take you decades to get out of it. Absolutely decades. Just look at the net zero policies that we're signed up to with regards to EU that we're still signed into, irrespective of Brexit. This won't just go, this 1 billion, should it be true, won't just be every month now until we get reform, conservative, restore, whatever you want. It will be forever until somebody can untangle all that EU policy.
Yeah, Lisa, on the Times story, there has been a response from Brussels that have said that this isn't unusual. It would be akin to a deal that the Swiss have, in which they contribute, or the UK contribute to annual budgets as part of a pay-to-play arrangement. Is that reasonable?
Well, I don't know, because I don't know what we're getting. I mean, nobody seems to know what it is that we're going to get from this. What I think will happen, though, as this keeps getting pushed, this sort of pro-EU, and Labour hanging this over their heads, because they will, the division again in the country will start. We're already a divided country, and this will just be another division. The country is pulling apart, and if Labour go down this EU road, they might get something that they've not bargained for. Perhaps an even uglier politics will start to crawl out.
Can get Peter's thoughts on how this will affect social division, but before we do, let's hear Sir Keir Starmer on closer ties with the European Union.
Increasingly clear that as the world continues down this volatile path, our long-term national interest requires closer partnership with our allies in Europe.
and with the European Union. Brexit did deep damage to our economy, and the opportunities to strengthen our security and cut the cost of living are simply too big to ignore.
You know what really sticks in my craw there is just this assertion that everyone on the left makes that Brexit did deep damage to the economy. To the extent that's true, and again, I could point to several other factors that could be pointed to that impact the economy, from high energy prices to a systemic low-risk environment in this country. But to the extent that the left talks about this, they just assert that really the economy is in the position that it is in because of Brexit, ignoring the fact that there hasn't been per capita growth in this country for 15 to 20 years.
Yeah, and Starmer sells it as a done deal, doesn't he? His language is very, very clear. So we all know the direction of travel. Should we remain under a socialist government? I do feel a considerable amount of sympathy for the Brexit campaigners. I don't think the Brexit that people envisaged or the Brexit they were sold ever came into reality.
Can I just say as well, let's not just say that this is blanket left and right issue, because actually there was a lot of left-wing people that wanted to leave the EU as well. It was called Lexit.
Well, they were the original Brexiteers.
That's right.
Led by Jeremy Corbyn, guys like that. They were very much
Vabbè,
the
comunque,
anti-EU.
vabbè, comunque.
EU was seen as this
Vabbè, comunque.
corporate loving the corporate sector. So actually, there is a number of people on the left that will not want this either.
I would say, yeah, the old left, the traditional working class left, which unfortunately has been abandoned by the left. Paul, I'll go to you. I was a believer, I still am a believer of the Brexit project. I agree with Peter that it has not been implemented anywhere near in the way that would have been hoped. Is it too late to be saved?
It's not too late to be saved at all. Legal Brexit's taken place. We have Brexit. What we have is a bunch of insiders like we did in 2019. Let's not forget, 2019 seems a million years ago. But the political that went on then was it was 51 to 49. Yada yada yada. We're now in 2020. Older person issue. I think a lot of people now, younger people that are going towards the right, popular right, restore, reform, these sorts of things, will look at this and see exactly what the EU is and think we don't want part of that either. What part of what we left and they're punishing us to make us come back?
Yeah, it is. I find that part extraordinary. Economically, it is a flush. It is just this high regulatory kind of living museum. Which is, again, I would have thought the last group of people or countries that you want to be associated with economically. I should point out before in regard to my previous comments, the Party and the Greens would argue that they have not given up on the working class.
Don't allow people to drown at sea. I don't think you want them to drown at sea, so let's get rid of that nonsense idea. Let's take the next nonsense idea that you